good afternoon, good morning, good night, good evening to wherever you are joining us from around the world. Welcome to another Thursdays with Onika, where we talk about sex, and even more sex. If this is your first time here, welcome to one of the coziest, sexiest, safe enough spaces on the internet where we can talk about all things sex and sexuality related. My name is Onika Henry. I am a clinical sexologist and sex educator. And tonight we are going to be talking about erectile dysfunction. If this is your first time here, there are some videos that are up on my channel from weeks before. You can take a look at those so you can get a sense of my background, how I started doing this work in sexology and sexuality related issues, education, um, treating folks, couples, and individuals who have challenges with their sex lives. And folks who've been here before, you know I can talk a lot. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm not going to waste any time tonight. And hopefully, there will still be some time at the end to entertain some questions. And feel free to post them in the chat. I'm going to keep monitoring the chat throughout this evening's um, presentation. All right. So let's get going. Oh, I forgot to mention. I've noticed that folks who are a little bit shy about asking questions or making comments, they would prefer to have a way to do that that's more or less anonymous. So here is my contact number, and you can reach me via WhatsApp, via Signal, via Telegram if you have any one of those applications. So text me your comments, text me your questions, water, and I'll respond to them. All right, I'm going to leave that up for a little while so you can take it down. Yeah, all right. I think that's enough time for folks to write that down and to save it so that you can reach out to me with your comments, questions, and thoughts. All right, so let us start. Oops, hold on. Forgot to connect. Let's hope it comes up. Do come up. Lovely. All right, so the hard facts about erectile dysfunction and what to do about it. So, situations. You're in the middle of a sexy session, you're aroused and attracted to your partner, but no erection. Things are hot and heavy, you're excited, your partner reaches down and no erection. You start to firm and erect, and just before action, erection disappears. If any of this sounds familiar, you're the person I'm talking to. And people respond to these situations in different ways. So I've heard people say this: I feel so embarrassed and ashamed. It's so frustrating and it makes me angry. Anytime we find that we're in situations where we don't know how to manage something, where we feel it's out of our control, for some people that can be very frustrating and it can make them very angry. This is also a common response. I avoid my partner and I avoid sex. I make up all kinds of excuses because I'm afraid it will happen again. I feel so bad that I can't satisfy my partner, like I'm not man enough. I get anxious during sex, lose connection with my partner, and then lose my erection. We argue over sex, and I'm afraid that my partner will seek it elsewhere. So these are common responses that I get from clients who come to me who have the challenge of erectile dysfunction. And if any of this sounds like you, once again, I have some tips, I have some information that you will find very helpful in terms of finding a way to resolve this issue. All right. I also want you to note that this is not just affecting you, it affects your partner as well. And these are the ways in which it affects your partner. They'll begin to ask themselves, isn't he attracted to me? Isn't he attracted to me anymore? Is he seeing someone else? So they start to get suspicious. Maybe you're giving all the energy and attention to someone else outside of the relationship, and therefore you have no energy left for this particular partner. Maybe the sex isn't good enough. So they begin to doubt their skills. They begin to doubt whether they are good enough and whether they are pleasing you in bed. And then what can also happen is that their sexual desire and arousal may begin to decrease. That will further complicate the problem until it becomes a relationship issue. So it begins to spill over out of the bedroom and into your daily life in terms of how you interact with each other. All right. So for those of you who have the challenge of erectile dysfunction, you're not the only one who is suffering. You're not the only one who's becoming frustrated and angry. All right. So don't let it go on and on and on until it gets to the point where the relationship is now in jeopardy. So I want to start with addressing your mindset. And when I'm talking here about mind, we're going to be looking at your knowledge. So knowledge about how the body works, what you believe is happening with you, and then your attitude in terms of how you're going to frame it in order to address it. All right. So your knowledge, your beliefs, and your attitude when it comes to erectile dysfunction. So common misconception. Erections are simple and straightforward. The fact is, erections are not simple, automatic responses to sexual stimuli. Right? So, ladies, men are also complex human beings with complex biology. Another fact, there are a number of steps in the process. And when I say the process of getting an erection, that involves a number of different body parts and systems. So, like the circulatory system, the nervous system, and your hormonal system. All of those need to work together. They need to be in alignment. They need to be in tip-top shape in order for a man or male to have erections. So, erection issues can have a number of different causes. Let's look at them. So, this is a very important point to make from the very beginning. Most times, folks, it has absolutely nothing to do with a partner's attractiveness. So, when the problem starts occurring, don't take it personally right away. All right? It's not always about you. Okay? Not always about you. Fact, having erection trouble from time to time isn't necessarily a cause for concern. And later on, you will understand when it is a cause for concern. What are the signs? What are the quote unquote symptoms that you need to look for before you begin to seek help from a professional? Another fact. Male arousal and erections do not necessarily go hand in hand. Same thing for women in terms of wetness and arousal, meaning men don't have complete control over their penises and erections, right? So they may actually be turned on and want an erection, but it simply isn't happening. And the opposite or vice versa is also true. They can actually have an erection and don't want it and not be turned on. And ladies, this also happens with us. There are times when we are lubricated, there is wetness, and we're not turned on or we're not interested in sex. Or the opposite, we are interested, we want, and there is no sign of lubrication. All right, so we call that arousal non-concordance. It is a real thing and it can happen to any body type. So let me drop some new knowledge for you. So let's look at a definition. Well, may not be new for everybody, but it may be new to some people who are looking on. Also, the definition of ED or erectile dysfunction. So it's defined as trouble getting or keeping an erection that's firm enough for sex, right? Of course, yeah, for sexual intercourse. And if it's progressive, so it happens routinely or it's getting worse, that is probably not normal and it should be treated. And so they give a ballpark figure here. So if it's happening once out of every 4 encounters, out of every 4 sexual encounters, so once or more, that is a sign that something isn't right and that you need to get it treated or checked out. All right, so I'm going to leave this up for a little while. Take a look at it, read it. So trouble getting or keeping an erection that's firm enough for sex, and it's getting progressive, meaning it's getting worse, or it's happening as routinely, it's happening, often. And we're talking here into different numbers, at least one or more times out of 4 encounters. All right. Right. So causes of ED, they basically fall into 2 categories. So we have physical causes and we have psychological causes. All right, so let's look first at the physical causes. So many or most cases have a physiological basis, meaning they may be influenced or caused by a physical or a medical problem. So that's where you want to check first. So things that would be considered medical or physical that would affect erections or the ability to get erections, most obvious, anything that's affecting your blood flow. Because of course, blood has to flow into the penis to make it firm and erect. So if there are any problems that you're experiencing that are affecting blood flow to the penis, that can contribute to erectile dysfunction. If there is nerve damage in the penis, and sometimes nerve damage is caused by certain diseases, diabetes, for example. Diabetes may cause nerve damage, and certain medications. I think also maybe chemotherapy, I'm not too sure. High blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, low testosterone levels or other hormonal problems, tobacco and alcohol use. These also affect blood flow or the availability of oxygenated blood to getting into the penis. And of course, treatments for prostate cancer can also affect the ability to have and sustain an erection. Certain prescription drugs affect erections, some illegal drugs, and obesity. This is a relatively new medical issue. New because it's only we've only recognized it within the last 2 years over this pandemic period, COVID-19. So COVID-19 may cause erectile dysfunction as the virus stays in the penile tissues even after recovery. I have actually had clients whose partners, whose spouses have had this issue. And it took those gentlemen, at least a year before their erectile function returned to what it was before they got COVID. So this really is something that we need to pay attention to. This is a case that's rare, but it has happened, where you have blood clots happening in your body because of the coronavirus in your system, and the blood clot caused extended or prolonged erections, which can be painful and also dangerous. It can eventually damage the blood vessels in the penis. All right. So if you're avoiding the vaccine for whatever reason, you also need to be taking extra precautions to make sure you do not get infected, gentlemen. All right. If you do a quick Google search, you will find all these headlines because it is so prevalent that it has been a cause of concern within the medical community. And so doctors have been looking into that. There are articles about it. And as I said, I have personally had interactions or have had to work with clients who have had this outcome. The only thing that they could pinpoint that was different or happened differently in their life that may be contributing to the erectile dysfunction was their COVID infection. Okay, so please, please, please take care of yourselves out there. Stay safe and stay well. All right, quick pause to see if there are any questions or comments. No, okay, so I'm going to continue. All right, so we just spoke about the physiological or physical or medical conditions that can contribute to erectile dysfunction. Let's look at the psychological causes. So you will hear this often in the sexology field. The brain is the most important sex organ. the brain plays an important role in sexuality and specifically in sexual arousal. And it plays an important role in more than one way. So, for example, your beliefs, your attitudes, your knowledge that will directly impact the choices that you make, your behavior when it comes to your sex life. The brain is also responsible for certain responses in the body, for giving directions to release particular hormones and other chemicals to cause responses in your body to sexual stimuli. So it does not just have that physiological function of affecting how the body functions, it's also affecting your attitude, and that's going to affect the choices that you make and the behaviors and the things that you do when you engage with a partner in a sexual situation. All right. So whatever is on a man's mind, including, and you've heard me say this already, because it's important, his attitudes, his beliefs, and his perceptions affects his ability to get or keep an erection. So events or situations inside and outside of the bedroom, at work or at home can and do influence erections because those things, those situations, those events are affecting his mental and emotional states. So, to be very specific, these are some of the psychological causes that may be contributing to erectile dysfunction. So, depression is one. And a depression on two levels, the disease itself, but also if you are taking specific medications to treat the depression, those medications are known to reduce sexual desire. And so if you don't even desire to have sex, then it's going to be even more difficult to be able to get and maintain an erection. So this is it's like a double-edged sword. Anxiety, just the anxiety as a condition itself, but also performance anxiety, being anxious about your sexual performance. Stress. High levels of stress release particular hormones, particular chemicals in the body. So, like cortisol, adrenaline, and epinephrine. I think I remembered those correctly. Cortisol, in particular, actually inhibits the release of testosterone. And testosterone is needed to have that drive and that arousal. And so if you're under a whole lot of stress for prolonged periods of time, you're actually making it very difficult for your body to not just produce sex hormones, but for the cells in your bodies to attach to those sex hormones because those cells are preferring to attach to these stress hormones because what you're telling your body is sex isn't important. Right now, I need to look after myself. This is about survival. This is about a fight or flight kind of situation. And so it's not prioritizing sex. All right. So stress really is a killer of a good sex life. Also, some of these stress hormones actually reduce the flow of blood in the blood vessels. Right. So once again, multiple levels, multiple different ways in which stress and those stress hormones are affecting your ability to have and maintain an erection. Fatigue. So, of course, dude, if you don't even have the energy to take care of yourself, you're not going to have the energy needed to engage in sex. All right. And relationship issues. Nobody wants to have sex with somebody that they're not in good relationship with somebody who they don't trust, with somebody who makes them angry all the time, with somebody who is not open to their needs, somebody who is not supportive of them, right? They're just not going to feel safe enough to let go. They're not going to want to be vulnerable with you, particularly within a sexual situation, because sex requires us to be really vulnerable in order to enjoy it. So, relationship issues can and do affect a man's ability to get and maintain an erection. So, do not overlook the relationship issues. Some other causes can include porn. So, and this really is related to unrealistic expectations from men about women. Did I say that right? I think I said that right. And so basically what I'm trying to say is if your only or if your major information or knowledge about women's bodies and about sexual interactions comes from looking at porn, then in the real world where women are not like that, that don't have bodies like that, that are not gymnasts and contortionists, who are not wet and ready on the go, and who have pubic hair, okay? Um, if you are not aware that porn is fiction, it's a movie that's created over several hours, lots of cuts and go again and replay, um, then you are going to be very disappointed if you have those expectations and those standards and you get into the real world with real women and real women's bodies, and it simply is not the same. All right. So you're looking at unlearning what you have perhaps been buying into from the images that you're seeing on porn. All right, so that is an issue. So let me pause. Let's see if there are any comments. Guinness and marijuana. Okay, interesting. Let me get back to these questions and comments at the end. Continue. Condoms. Surprise, surprise, right? It's not an excuse though. Notice I put that it's not an excuse, but it can contribute to erectile issues. And I'll get into that later on in the presentation. Right. So when it comes to condoms, what we have here is there is an interruption in the sex play or the sexual interaction, and some people find that distracting, especially if they're already anxious and concerned. Stopping to put on the condom can be a distraction, and there is the stress of putting on a condom, especially if you're not accustomed, and if you're not sure how, and you're fumbling to put this thing on in the dark, and you're new to this, it can be very distracting. And of course, this may be the underlying reason for some cases where there are deeper concerns like guilt or performance anxiety. They manage to seep into your consciousness in that period of time when you're stopping to put on the condom. So if there have been issues about this interaction before, and you kind of brush them away and you ignore them or you bury them, right? And you're in the action and things are, hot and sweaty and going good, and then you stop to put on the condom. And that pause in the action, it may be enough time, enough space for you to begin to have the doubts that you've been trying to bury, concerns like guilt, especially if you come from a religious background and you're really not supposed to be doing this according to, you know, um, that guilt and that performance anxiety manages to sneak itself in that pause when you're putting on the condom. So it is a thing for some men. All right. I wanted to include this information because from my past videos, well, the most recent ones where I speak about somatic sex education and sexological bodywork, and I talk quite a bit about the nervous system in those videos. I wanted to mention this here so that you remember, for those of you who've seen these videos. If you've not, you need to go back and check the last 2 weeks. That within that modality of somatic sex education and sexological bodywork, we have tools that deliberately help you to influence, impact, have a bit of control over your autonomic nervous system. And so it means those are tools that I would bring in to work with a client who has erectile dysfunction. So the parasympathetic part of the nervous system is responsible for rest, recovery, and relaxation. That is key if you are going to be in a state to receive sexual stimulation. And there is the sympathetic aspect of your nervous system that's responsible for the upregulation, the energetic things that have to do with movement, increased heart rate, increased breath, the hormonal release, etc. And so having and maintaining an erection involves those two systems working back and forth together. And depending on what's causing your erectile dysfunction, you would need to learn how to upregulate or downregulate your nervous system. All right. And so if arousal is happening through touch, obviously, because bodies are coming together, that would usually involve the parasympathetic system and needing to be calm, not to be tense and anxious so that you can't even receive the stimulation. through touch because you're overloaded, or if it is that you are like depressed or really not in the mood or fatigued and tired, and you need to find ways to upregulate your system, where you think you're using your emotions, fantasy, visuals, and other senses. You need to know how to work with the sympathetic aspect of your nervous system. All right, so I thought I'd slip that in there just as a reminder of the tools that we have within somatic sex education and sexological bodywork to work with the nervous system to help address these issues that can happen, all right, with erectile dysfunction. Right, important note. As with any other sexual activity, erectile issues are not a problem unless you and your partner consider it to be so. In other words, some people are not at all put off when it occurs. So they may simply choose to engage in other pleasurable sexual activities. So oral play, sensual massage, fondling, kissing, etc. Or they may just decide, call it off and just cuddle. And sometimes doing this helps to reset and relax the nervous system, and then it's more open to arousal. All right. And so it doesn't have to be a big issue that turns into a bigger issue that leads to problems. So really what I'm saying is it's your attitudes and beliefs mainly that determine the outcome or the way forward in this situation. The body is amazing. I will always say that. I'll always remind you of that. And there are ways to work with the body so that you can find your pleasure. All right? Cool. Now, part of the challenge of working or helping folks deal with things like erectile dysfunction is getting out of what we call a negative feedback loop. So I'm going to give you an example of what that is. All right, I hope you folks can see that. So this is a feedback loop for someone who has PTSD, but I find it was useful in helping to explain how a negative feedback loop or feedback loop in general works. So the person is in hyperarousal or a state of fear or anxiety, and therefore they are cut off from their capacity for rational thinking. They're cut off from their capacity to slow down and have intentional choice about what to do next and how to manage this. And since they don't have that, they begin to panic, or they may start rushing through things. They may act impulsively, or they could be manipulated into doing certain things. That can then lead to getting into an accident, having injury, or making bad decisions, and that can lead to a traumatic experience or a bad experience. And if you've had a bad experience, the next time a situation happens that's similar to that context, you already, oh my gosh, it happened the last time, so it might happen this time. So you begin to worry. And because you begin to worry, you're cut off from rational thoughts. And because you're cut off from rational thoughts and you can't access more intentional responses, you begin to panic, you rush, you're in your head. And that can cause you not to get that erection. All right. And then another bad sexual experience, and you keep going like that. So you end up getting stuck in that feedback loop. All right. And so it is really be finding a way to break this cycle and create a feedback loop that is a positive feedback loop. All right. Right. So how can you tell if the problem is a physical one or a psychological one? Right? There are ways to help determine that, so that when you're using these tips, you can then decide, all right, so I need to see the medical doctor, or I need to see a mental health specialist or someone who specializes in sexuality issues. So how do we do that? Let's take a look. Check your medication. Let's start there. Some medications have sexual side effects, negative sexual side effects. And so what I often suggest to folks, if during my intake or during the consultation, if they are on any medications, I ask, okay, first check with your doctor, or you can even take your list of medications and supplements that you're taking to a pharmacist, and let them tell you what the possible side effects are. Or ask them directly, are there any sexual side effects from these medications? Some folks actually just, look at the medication, the bottle or the label or whatever, and they go on Google and they type it in, And Google will come up with a list of possible side effects. So sometimes that's the choice people make to figure out whether the culprit could be in the medications that they're taking. You can also ask about alternatives. So if that's the case, you can also look at asking your doctor about changing the dosage if possible, or finding an alternative medication that is not affecting you sexually. The tape test. This is another way of checking to see whether the problem is physical or psychological. So usually males develop an erection during the night or upon awakening in the morning, aka morning wood, right? Um, Also called nocturnal penile tumescence. I hope I pronounced that right. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Okay. Right. But this is evidence that that this penis owner can indeed have an erection. It is evidence that the biology, that the mechanics in his body are working properly. Right? So if you're having morning wood, you're still getting erections through the night, and upon waking up in the morning, the equipment is working. So it is not likely to be a medical issue. But if you're not one to wake up with an erection, it still may be happening throughout the night. So the tape test involves wrapping a very thin and narrow piece of tissue paper around the flaccid or soft penis. You secure it with a little piece of Scotch tape. And it's likely that if there's an erection happening while you're sleeping throughout the night, that tissue paper will break or tear to some degree. Okay, so simple tests that you can try to determine whether the mechanics is still working. Right, so if you easily get an erection during sleep, but not in other situations, then the cause is likely to be a psychological one. If not, so you're getting if you're not getting an erection during sleep, then the reason might likely be a physical or medical issue. Okay? Self-stimulate. This is another test for whether it's a physical issue or a psychological issue. So, can you get yourself aroused and have an erection when you're alone and masturbating? Solo pleasuring, that's the term I prefer. But you're not getting it when you're with a partner. If you can, if you are, then there's nothing wrong with the equipment. Most likely there's no medical issue, and likely the cause is a psychological one. All right? I still encourage men to go get a checkup, especially if they have not had a checkup in a long time, just to rule out all possibilities. Okay? So, now that you know the causes and the different categories, what are some of the things that can help to resolve issues of erectile dysfunction? I'm going to pause here, take a quick look at the chart. Let's see. So, okay. All right. So, good. Let me bring this across. This is, oops, right. This is a comment for someone perhaps who's more of a medical professional. Guinness and marijuana helps ED, or that's just a myth. So, in terms of marijuana, everybody's body responds differently. The general consensus, though, thus far, is that the smaller the dosage, the better. But a small dose for me may not be a small dose for somebody else's body. All right. So that is a hit and miss. It can have different effects, but marijuana or cannabis is actively being used in lots of products now that help with sexual function, in making it better, particularly for women. Right? So depending on the cause of the ED, marijuana may or may not help, and depending on how you're taking it in. Are you smoking it? Are you baking it in goodies to consume? Are you making a tincture and putting it under your tongue? How are you using it? Are you using something that you put in topically and you're rubbing it on your genitals? Like, how are you taking it? That may also affect whether it can help with erectile dysfunction. Guinness, once again, I think that's a case by case basis, but alcohol for some people restricts blood flow to the penis, and so may not happen. For other people, because it loosens their inhibitions and they are more relaxed, blood may be flowing easier and can get to the penis. But there's always a point of where there's too much, right? Where you've gone over the threshold and the Guinness simply not working, or the marijuana just puts you to sleep. All right. So I hope that answered the question. Oops. Let's see. What else can I check here? Okay, I like this. Oops. Sorry, folks. Let me make sure I'm positioning this in a way that folks can see. Right. So I like that question. This is from Alien in the Caribbean talking to Pavel. Also, those local aphrodisiacs like purple water, Bwabande, etc., which are actual remedies, and what is the right way to use them? Right. So this is not my area of expertise, but there are herbalists or naturopathic doctors who can tell you, who'll be able to give you an idea of dosage. These, though, they are not instant or as fast acting sometimes compared to the chemicals. So they may need to be taken over a period of time or for a longer period of time, depending on what you're using and what you're using it for. But yes, some of them can actually work. How they work, though, may depend on, once again, what's happening in that person's body. All right. But definitely it's something to look into. It is something to consider. And I know folks who have had some really good results using a herbal approach or a natural approach. It simply means they're going to have to be consistent and disciplined over a longer period of time when it comes to taking herbs as opposed to the more medical or chemical or man-made substances. Right. Thanks for those questions, folks. Yes, definitely people can misuse them. What is the quickest way? Okay, I'm so messing up um these quotes tonight. Like, yeah. What is the quickest way to regain an erection after you just come? Well, I guess after you ejaculate. Once again, that's an individual situation. So, and it depends on the state of your body and how old you are. The older you get, the longer it takes for your body to get back to that recovery or refractory period, where your body goes back to ground zero and then it's ready again. So some people it's just a few minutes. Some people may need an hour or two. So it depends on the state of your body, the condition of your body, and your age. Whether you're fit, but you're looking at making sure that you have been fully rested, that you are relaxed. Um, and usually once you're in that relaxed state, you're able now to receive sexual stimulation again, which can bring about arousal. I don't have any other tips for you on that, but that's an interesting one. I would look that up to see if there's anything out there that I can share with folks. Ooh, why am I not figuring out this? Okay. All right, yes, folks, apologies. Still learning the tech. Be gentle with me when it comes to the tech things. Right, so what can help? So there are four basic approaches when it comes to dealing with erectile dysfunction. So the most obvious for some people is you try medication. So you go to your doctor and he might prescribe something for you, once again, depending on the cause. Using mechanical devices, and I'm going to go into more details and explanations for each of these. Behavioral training and couples coaching. All right, once again, each of these will depend on the cause of the problem. Well, using each of these, what I mean, depends on what's causing the problem. All right, so let's look at medication. So the prescription, so your Levitra, your Cialis, your Viagra, and other meds. If there are others, I'm leaving room for the possibility that there are that I'm not aware of. This is one route that you can take. You go to your doctor, tell him what's happening, him or her what's happening, and they can prescribe one of these. Oops. Right. Herbs or alternative meds, as we just discussed. You can use those instead of doing the hardcore drugs. Now, this herb here, yohimbe, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. that comes from an African tree bark, that was actually prescribed by doctors before Viagra. Yeah. So, and I've seen this in pharmacies slash drugstores. So this is one herb or alternative to the hardcore chemicals that you can try that might actually help. So before they discovered the magical Viagra and Levitra and Cialis, doctors were prescribing this. Okay. Mechanical devices. So penis pumps and C-rings. C there stands for cock or constriction. So constriction rings or cock rings. All right. So I wanted to make this point before talking about the penis rings and penis rings or penis pumps. Sexual stimulants and pumps are most effective for men who can't produce an erection. So they're helping to get blood to the area to produce an erection. Whereas the pills and the rings, the C rings, they work better for men who can't sustain an erection. So they can get one, but they can't sustain one, right? So if it's easy for you to get an erection, but you can't sustain it, the better approach, the better route would be through the pills and C rings. If you have difficulty getting an erection, but you could perhaps maintain it once you get it, the sexual stimulants and the pumps are more effective for you. An example of a C-ring, and this is how it goes or can go over the You don't have to use all three. Okay. If you're adventurous, you can go for it. But these are C-rings or cock rings or constriction rings, and they get fancier now. But you can start, if you're a beginner, you can start with this. This is very basic. And you also have the penis pumps, right? It creates a vacuum inside that chamber, and that vacuum encourages the blood to flow into the penis so that you get an erection. All right. So these are the mechanical devices. You're actually using an actual tangible tool to manipulate or to help um, keep the tissues in a particular shape. So keeping the blood in the penis, that's what the C-ring does, or you're creating a vacuum which encourages the blood to now rush into the penis because there's less pressure outside because there's a vacuum. You're creating less pressure in the atmosphere around the penis. I'm getting into my physics. I did physics in school. But yes, right? So penis pumps or C-rings. All right, let me pause. Okay, we're good to go. No questions as yet. Behavioral control. What does that mean? This is where the rubber hits the road in a different kind of way. So this is self-training. When people ask me about my thoughts about masturbation, is it healthy or whatever, the first thing I say is, well, first of all, sexologists actually use solo pleasure or self-stimulation as part of our therapeutic approaches. It's a tool. Um, so that usually answers the question. Okay, so it's not bad or good. It's a tool, unlike everything else folks can overdo or misuse. But it's a tool. And self-training during masturbation, there are like about 6 steps that we help clients to go through or practice to get to the point where they're able to control their erections and even control their ejaculation. So it's the same steps and the same tool that we would also use to help somebody who has early ejaculation, also known as premature ejaculation. So anywho, this self-training includes things like mental focus, recognizing your ejaculatory inevitability, the point at which you know, if I get to this point, ain't no coming back. I am going to ejaculate. And also recognizing the pre-EI sensations, pre-ejaculatory inevitability, knowing, okay, what are the signs, what are the things that are happening in my body, what are the sensations that lets me know, okay, I'm close, and if I pull back, if I do something else here, I wouldn't go over the edge, or I wouldn't I wouldn't go over the edge into ejaculation. Breath work, learning about and managing your arousal. Right, so all those are steps that we would use for a behavioral training approach. Okay, and the same approach is used for both early ejaculation and erectile dysfunction. All right, because it's all about deeply tracking and managing your body's response to stimuli, to sexual stimuli. So, what would also fall under behavior control would work for people would be applied to people who have issues with condoms, and this is how we would approach this. So incorporate putting on a condom as part of the sex play. So you want to make the use of condoms a sexy and playful thing, so that your partner isn't distracted by that pause that happens to put it on. And your partner, as in the partner of the male who has the issue, can continue rubbing or stimulating you in other ways while you put on the condom. Instead of both of you stopping and focusing on putting on the condom, so there's this pause and you're waiting for this action to finish and then you continue. So you want to fill that pause with something that keeps you interested, that keeps you aroused and focused on your pleasure. And you can also approach it this way, where you, as the man who has issue, doesn't put it on, but your partner can put it on using their hands or put it on using their mouth. Putting it on using the mouth may take some practice and skills, but it makes safer sex sexy. All right. So putting it on with the hands or the mouth, so the other partner can put it on, and that keeps the stimulation and the sexual rhythm going. All right. And there are YouTube videos that show you how to do that, okay, folks? Just type in putting on a condom with your mouth, and there are videos that will give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Right. Another tip for folks who have issues with condoms, adding some store-bought lubricant to the outside of the condom, so smoother flow, and also on the tip of the penis before you put on the condom, so that it increases sensation for the penis owner, right? Who has the challenge. Okay, so these are just different ways of getting more sensation that are pleasurable into the penis, so that you're able to sustain your erection and your arousal. All right, gonna pause a little bit again, see if anything else is coming up. Nope. Okay, good. I'm good to continue. Another tip, you can try thinner latex condoms. Oh, I have two commas there. Didn't even notice that. Or you can use condoms that are made from polyurethane or polyisoprene, right? I have not seen the polyisoprene locally, but I have seen the polyurethane. And this is actually a good thing that we have a choice between latex and polyurethane, because some people are allergic to latex. So for folks who are allergic to latex, there is another option. There has been another option for a very long time. So if you're allergic, you simply let the pharmacist know to give you non-latex. If you want to use a big fancy word, and sound knowledgeable, you can add some polyurethane condoms. All right. And the polyurethane condoms, I think they keep more body warmth, and they may provide more sensation compared to just using the more popularly known latex condom. Right. So look for thinner latex condom, or try using polyurethane or non-latex condoms. Okay. Nice. Right. Now, sometimes the issue really is one that is coming out of relationship conflict. And so a couple may need to go to see a relationship therapist or a couples therapist. They can go to someone like me if it is not, if it doesn't have if it's not a long-standing issue that has a deep history of unresolved issues. Okay. Um, but addressing the relationship issues with your partner and learning negotiation and communication skills can go a long way into helping you resolve the issues that you may be having with erectile dysfunction. Sometimes that's all you need to resolve the relationship, and the sex automatically fixes itself because you're communicating better, you're more open to each other, you're more relaxed around each other, you're more willing to be open and ask for what you want and try new things together. And so sometimes once the relationship issues are fixed, you don't need the extra help or the more specific guidance of a sexuality professional, right? And then sometimes it works the other way around. Sometimes if the issue really is a sex issue and you're able to fix that and teach people how to negotiate around sex and be more comfortable with it, that confidence spills over into the relationship and it enhances how you relate to each other. All right, because now you're able to access more pleasure from and with each other. All right. So other approaches besides those four main approaches that I mentioned There is another medical approach using testosterone, whether it's a cream that you're rubbing or testosterone patches and that you're putting onto your skin or injections. Very extreme and requires surgery, but yeah, some men do it. They go and they get penile implants, high risk kind of surgery though. And having some variety in your sexual activities, so so that you don't get bored too easily and get distracted and lose interest. And of course, a healthy lifestyle. If your body is fit and you're treating it well, you are nourishing it well, you're exercising, you are making sure that you have good experiences, you're not stressed, you are able to follow your pleasure. So there is emotional and mental well-being that will always help towards making your sex life better, more satisfying, and perhaps even beyond ordinary. All right. Okay. So that brings us to the end of this part, but I always have things to share with you in terms of websites and yeah, and probably examples that I may want to show in terms of a client plan. So what I want to share with you now, let's see, do I have it up? Oops, nope, wrong one. Let's see. Where are we? Here we go. All right. So this is just up close and personal, looking at the examples of C rings or cock rings. Yeah. I already showed this to you in the presentation. I thought I'd give you another close up, and I also wanted to introduce you to this website. This is one of my favorite websites if you're looking for articles and information about sexuality and sexual health, but also toys, right? So I recommend Kinkley to anybody who is into the bedroom accessories to enhance their sexual experiences. All right, and then I wanted to show you an example of a penis pump. Now, apparently this is actually the first time I'm seeing this kind. This is new on the market. This is a penis pump that uses water to help with the suction to keep it attached to your body. So it's called Bathmate Hydromax. And for each of these toys, you can actually go on YouTube, type in the name of the toy, and you will find videos and reviews from folks who've used it, and explanations as well from the creators, the persons who are marketing the product or who have created the product. They will have a how-to video to explain to you how their product is used and when, etc., etc. Right? So an example of a penis pump to help folks get an erection if you're having trouble getting an erection. This is one way that you can do it. And going back here, if you're able to get an erection, the challenge is keeping it. You're putting this C-ring after you get the erection to keep the erection. Now, you don't wear a C-ring for longer than 30 minutes, right? That's the maximum amount of time, just to make sure that you are not causing any damage to the tissue in that delicate area. All right, cool. I have a video of a really advanced version of a C-ring, like I said before. This is a very simple and a very basic type, but they can get real fancy. They can get real fancy and high tech. And I want to share with you one of the fancy high tech ones. So it makes, it feels less intimidating perhaps, or maybe it's a little bit more fun. If you're thinking of not just, oh, I have erectile dysfunction, but this might be something that spices up our sexual experience, that will benefit both you and your partner. So let's take a look at it's called the WeVibe Pivot. And let me know if you're hearing the sound from this video. All right, so let's check out this high-tech and advanced C-ring.
Hi, I'm Tristan, Global Passion Ambassador for WeVibe. I'd like to tell you about Pivot by WeVibe, a vibrating penis ring that enhances pleasure for both partners. Penis rings are designed for fuller, longer-lasting erections and more powerful orgasms. Pivot's rumbly vibrations provide hands-free clitoral stimulation when used during sex, so you can both share the vibes. Pivot is made to feel good. The soft and stretchy band is wide and contoured for comfort and stability. The penis fits in this contour to prevent the ring from moving around, so you can focus on enjoying your partner. Pivot is designed to put on an erect penis. Apply a small amount of water-based lubricant inside the ring and to the penis. Stretch the band around the head and slide it down to the base. For more features, you can connect Pivot to your smartphone with the free WeConnect app. You can share control from anywhere, create custom vibes, and play together with other WeVibe products. Pivot has all the features you should expect from a premium pleasure product. It's body safe, rechargeable, waterproof, and whisper quiet. It has 10 preset vibration modes to choose from, or you can create your own in the app. Pivot charges via any USB port. The magnetic charging cable simply snaps into place, and the low power indicator lets you know when it's time to recharge. Try Pivot by WeVibe, a powerful new way for couples to explore pleasure.
All right. So, yep, the C-rings have been majorly upgraded, and you can program your own vibrations into them. It actually, I like to say that it turns your partner's penis and testicles into into real live human vibrator. So because as you can see from what they were explaining in the video, um your partner's going to experience the vibrations as well, and they're going to feel it on their person but also through your genitals. And I wanted to give um a quick share again. I'm going to go straight here, and we mentioned this client already. And so for those who didn't go through this with me, I'm going to show you a quick example of what I may do with a client who comes in with erectile dysfunction, once again from sexological bodywork, number of sessions, checking in for every session, setting an intention, what are our goals for today, and then, oops, came too far out. Right, these are all the suggested activities, exercises, items on a menu that I would offer someone who is coming in to work on erectile dysfunctions. Notice there is relaxation exercises, basics of touch, perhaps dealing with body image issues if there are any of those coming up. So even though we're focusing on okay, what's happening with blood flow to the penis, I'm also involving the entire body or addressing the entire person. Um, and based on this person's, based on the information that I got from them in their intake form, and when I did a body-based assessment of them, I would recommend all of these. This is how I would approach working with that person. Notice here, there is curate daily or weekly mindful masturbation practice. In this home play or exercise that I would give this person to do, that's where the behavioral training would be happening. This is where they're learning to really check in with their bodies and learn how to, I don't know if I want to say discipline their bodies, but learn how to get their bodies to be in alignment with what they want and have more control and more choice in terms of what they can do with their bodies in a sexual experience. All right. Let's see. Is that all I have to share with you tonight? I believe so. I believe so. So nice. So we've come to the end of another hour. Has it been an hour? Yes, almost to the minute. Talking about erectile dysfunction. I'm gonna do a quick check on my phone, see if I have any messages here from folks who are a little shy, a little too shy to ask online, especially if they're using their full government name, as we say in this part of the world. So let's see if anything came through. And let me scan the chat once again. Let's see what's here. Okay, no messages on the phone, but let's see what's happening in the chat. Let's go through. Oh, this is an interesting question. Um, I don't know who the y'all are. I'm not the y'all. If Kinkley has super soakers, you mean? I have no idea, but you can do a check perhaps and see if they have super soakers. I would be very curious as to how you are going to use this super soaker for erectile dysfunction. That's the context. So I'm curious, Jason. Send me a WhatsApp. Let me know what you intend to do and how you intend to use this super soaker. Yeah. Ian the Caribbean says, amazing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not too sure what do you mean. I'm amazing and the show is amazing and the content was amazing, or whether the toy was amazing. I suspect you're talking about the toy, right? I'll go with D. All of the above were amazing. Paphil, do you have any tips for me to last longer than 2 minutes? Right. So I did respond to that on one of the my other videos in the past. And so lasting long, once again, that is an early ejaculation issue. So the same tips that I just gave for persons who have erectile dysfunction can work. Some of them can work for somebody who wants to last longer, especially the behavioral training, right? Learning how to check in with your body and know when you're getting too close and what to do when you're getting too close. So things like squeezing your pelvic floor muscles, those muscles that you use to control the flow of urine when you go to the bathroom. So when next time you go to the bathroom and you are passing urine, just play with the muscles that you need to stop the flow of urine, let it flow again. And practice doing that so that you have more control over your pelvic floor. Sometimes that helps. If you could remember to do that when you feel yourself coming too close to ejaculation. Extending foreplay, perhaps slowing down and going again. So playing with the rise and fall of arousal. Of arousal that sometimes helps some folks. But the main tool that we use is that behavioral training. Taking time with yourself during solo play to extend the time that you allow yourself to get to ejaculation. And then when you find that you have gotten to a place in your practice where, okay, I can extend it long enough in a way that satisfies me, then you're going to now invite your partner to work with you. So it's your partner who's going to be stimulating you. Once again, no penetration yet. They'll be using their hands, but now you are teaching your body to be able to tolerate the touch of another and to manage that arousal with another body working with you during that solo play. Right. So, but do go to I think it's a Q&A that I did. It might be the video on Facebook. I did answer this question already with some very concrete and specific tips. But I hope that was helpful. It really is you taking time to train your body using breath, and imagine that you are spreading that arousal energy throughout your body, and it's not just concentrated in your pelvic area. So spreading it through your body. Um, to kind of help diffuse or temper that buildup that might be coming too quickly for you. But practice during solo pleasure for sure. Noticing when you're getting too close and being able to pull back and hold back. Using your pelvic floor muscles as well. And if you're somebody who is always on the go, like you're busy, busy, busy all the time, that actually spills over into how your body's programmed. So if you're always busy, if you're always active, if things gotta happen, no, no, no. You're kind of that A type personality, always rushing to do things. Yeah, you always have that high adrenaline rush. You need to literally learn to slow down. Slow down your approach to life, slow down your approach to managing your time and your activities. And that will eventually spill over into the message, into your body, into telling your body, slow down, don't go too quickly, don't encourage a high energy level that needs to be released quickly. All right. So look at other things that are happening in your life, in your lifestyle, and how you approach life that may be always fast, always quick, always on the go. Personalities like that always have early ejaculation challenges. That's a textbook stereotypical kind of case or situation. It's very, very common. Let me not say always. There are always exceptions because human beings are very diverse. But high likelihood that if your life is also fast paced and you're always on the go and things that happen quickly and things that happen now, that is actually spilling over into how into your sex life and how your body operates during sexual activity. Right. Yes, edging. Yes, it's also called edging, bringing yourself close to ejaculation or close to orgasm and then pulling back. But it's edging plus in this context because you are also incorporating um, other levels of body awareness. You're also incorporating perhaps specific kinds of breathing techniques and the use of your pelvic floor muscles. All right, and then you're also going to then up the intensity or get an advanced level where a partner is doing it and a partner is their hands are on you and it's not your hands only, and then it gets to the last stage where you're actually engaging in intercourse and learning now to apply those techniques in ways that don't feel as if you're going from step one, no step two, so not in your mind, right? So learning ways in which those activities can become more natural and flow easily when you get into an encounter with another body. All right. Let's see. So it is 8:05. I'm going to stay for another minute. Let's see if any more questions, comments, or concerns come in before I close off tonight's session. And apologies for that little stumbling at the beginning. I don't know, my throat is really dry tonight. So yeah, lots of stumbling and um tongue feeling tied in my mouth, etc. But yes, that's all part of it, right? All right. Not seeing any more questions or any more comments. And we're at 8:08. Okay. All right, my beautiful people. I'll just take one last check. And on my phone, let's see if anybody sent anything in. Nope. All right. So I hope that doesn't mean that people are still too shy to ask. I hope it means that the information, the content was really comprehensive and answered a lot of questions so that there aren't a lot of gaps or uncertainties or confusion about the topic. And if not, I want to thank you so, so very much for joining me in this cozy, sexy, safe enough space on the internet where we can talk about sex, more sex, and even more sex on Thursdays with Onika. Do enjoy the rest of your day, your morning, your evening, your afternoon, wherever in the world you are as you have been listening to this program. All right? So have a blessed rest of the day, whatever that looks like to you. Take care and bye bye.